Welcome to Victory Online, and in this episode, Bob is interviewing Paul Caruana about the Casemates recording studios.
I'm pleased to say I've got Paul Caruana with me from Casemates Studio in Cath. Hi, Paul. How you doing? I said Cath. I meant Cath.
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm really pleased to have you in.
Thank you.
I want to know as much as I can, really, about the history of that wonderful building you're in.
Well, really going right back to the beginning.
If you can, yeah.
From what I've learned over the years, the building was first, I think it was completed around 1870. It was built by prisoners. And it was all to do with the old Napoleonic forts that were built, similar to the ones on the hill.
Yeah.
All built around the same sort of time. So Fort Widley, Fort Nelson, all those ones all built at the same sort of time. We're in bastion number 4, which was one of 7 or 8 bastions that went across the whole of the north of Portsmouth.
Just explain what a bastion is.
Do you know what? Do you know what it is?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't know what the word bastion means. But that's the title of that particular building. So that's like one of 7 or 8 that used to stretch across the whole of the north of Portsmouth. So back in the late 1800s, the north of Portsmouth of the island was a fortification. They would stretch across it. There are now 6 of them left. I think a few have been knocked down, and we're in number 4.
Okay.
So, you Googled it?
I have. Go on. What is it?
A projecting part of a fortification built at an angle to the line of a wall, so as to allow defensive fire in several directions. That
There
makes
you go.
sense.
Now we all know.
Yeah.
So, and how many rooms are you using there for rehearsal space?
So we have 7 rehearsal rooms there now.
And all those doors that you use, I mean, I come down to Casemates regularly because you put on those wonderful evenings now as well. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But all those doors, the entrance doors to those pods, that I call them, are they original spaces or has it all been split up?
No, they are all original. So they're actually, the technical name for what you call as pod is a casemate.
Okay.
That's where the name Casemate Studios comes from the predecessor. Did you ever meet Derek, who used to run
I
it?
did, yeah.
So he made the name Casemates because they were casemate, and you will find there are casemates in all sorts of old buildings. There's some in Southsea Castle. There's apparently lots of them around the Mediterranean, Gibraltar, places like that. So that's where the term casemates come from.
Yeah, Derek, he was there a long time, wasn't he?
He started in 1994, I believe. That's when he had his first band rehearse. And then I bought the business off of him in 2013. So he was there for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, and he was the local representative for the for the musicians' union, wasn't he?
That was right. Yeah. He was involved in that, and then he was also very much involved in the jazz music scene in Portsmouth as well.
Right.
He was a pianist.
Are you a musician yourself?
Yeah, I play guitar, so I've done lots of different bands over the years.
You must come across some wonderful players that rehearse there.
Yeah. We get a lot of really talented people come by, a lot of really nice, friendly people as well. There's a good community of musicians in Portsmouth.
More recently, you've opened a new recording studio.
Yes, nearly a year ago now. We started in January last year. The first few months, we were just finding our feet, figuring out how we were going to work things. And then the last couple of months, we've had a nice steady stream of bands, and we've started to get some really, really good recordings coming out of it. And there's a lot more to come.
You got some good engineers down there.
Yes, yeah. So we've got Tristan, which I know you know. He's there kind of doing his own thing during the day. He's got his own clients that he works with. And then at the weekend, we've got Jim Harding, who's an engineer who's been recording.
I know Jim, yeah.
Yeah, he's been recording the artists that we've been getting as casemates to record. So he's been working with us.
Have you got any dreams of having your own label?
So no, it's not something that's really crossed my mind. It's a very tricky business to get into nowadays, I assume. But never say never, but it's not something I've thought about. But then I never thought about having a recording studio there in the first place.
Yeah, it's just such the right thing to do. Yeah. I mean, you've got a captive audience.
Yeah.
As you probably know, I ran a recording studio for many decades, and that's where I met Tristan.
Yeah.
He was one of my students, actually. Yeah. I will tell you a little story about him. He was one of my students, and he was one of the students that flourished, and you knew from day one that he was going to do so well.
Yeah.
Really nice musician, a beautiful human being, and of course a good songwriter and amazing ears. So, and he came into the studio to record for the weekend, and after about 3 hours I said, "You don't need me, just get on, just do what you want to do." And I think that weekend he'd put drums down, bass, guitar, which is what he really wants to do. Piano, he's an amazing pianist. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, I've not heard him play. No, I've heard him play guitar and bass.
He was a lovely classical pianist, which is what his parents wanted him to be, and he's now really a pop producer, as you know, and did his own vocals, his own backing vocals. And I listened to it. I think it was on the Monday morning when he'd finished. I literally left him to his own. He would have been about 17, 18 years old. And he just did a fantastic job. And then you probably know the story from then on. He went on to uni and then, set himself up in London and has done very well ever since.
Yeah, he's done very well. And he's been really great having there because he's been really helpful with what Jim's been learning using the setup, and also Sean, who runs our recording, giving them loads of advice, loads of help, just out of his own time. He's such a lovely person to have there.
Absolutely. And he encourages everybody to do what they want to do well.
Yeah.
So, and as you know, manages and records the lottery winners.
Yep.
So
they're getting very popular at the moment.
Aren't they just? Yeah. So, okay. Now, apart from having all those Casemates pods and the recording studio, you've got a cafe, which I think is starting to do really well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was something I never planned to open up a cafe. I don't even like coffee, which is always a bit of an ironic thing when I first got the coffee machine.
While I'm just sipping a coffee.
So that was a kind of happy accident. We just kind of had to think on our feet when the studio was closed during COVID. We started selling some coffees on the door to dog walkers going past, and it just escalated from there. And it has been really nice just to see different members of the community to come in and use it. Before we were just having musicians come by, but now we have more of the local community use it as a meeting space. A lot of dog walkers. We've got a really nice group of dog walkers that come by every single day now, and a few of them were recently widowed, and they've made new friends just by coming along every day, having a chat with people, and it's really nice to see them use the space and get out and socialise.
It's definitely one of those places where you go and even if you turn up on your own or maybe with your dog, you're not going to be left alone. Because
people do talk to each other there. It's really nice, especially on the open mic nights that we do.
How's that going?
Yes, it's been really nice. We've got some really good regulars that come along, and it's a very open environment. And we find because the tables are kind of like long, it's a very small space, but I suppose the table's a bit set out like you would find like in a Bavarian beer hall sort of thing, where everyone just has to, can I sit next to you? And just everyone has to jump on the same tables. It encourages people to talk to people they wouldn't usually talk to.
Absolutely, which is brilliant, isn't it? And that happens on a Monday night?
Yeah.
And is it still original material only?
Yep, it's original material only. So if you've got a new song you want to try out for the first time, bring it down.
Best place to do it.
Yeah. But the other thing a lot of people do now is we just have jams. So someone will get up, say we're going to play F, G, and A, and go with it. The drummer will start a beat and just see what happens. And that's really good for someone who's a musician who doesn't necessarily write songs but wants to get involved. And also, it means you don't have to be like a virtuoso at your instrument. As long as you can play 2 or 3 chords, or you're just starting out, it's a great experience to get in there and think on your feet and jam with musicians. Well, otherwise you wouldn't do that if you were playing at home by yourself. So we want to encourage people who I would say like are bedroom players who just play for their own fun at home to actually get out and start meeting musicians and just having really good fun.
Yeah. Are the Hill Brothers still hosting that?
They are indeed, and they're a big part of it. They really encourage that jamming aspect as well. And sometimes Nathan in particular will, right, you can play drums, you can play bass, you can play guitar, let's get you up there, and he'll kind of conduct them and get them playing together. So there's always someone there to kind of push you along.
They're busy guys, aren't they?
Yeah, they always have been.
Always doing something.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. Now, I don't know if you're aware, the guys, the volunteers that are in today, I've got 2 Matts here, they're both from Enableability. But I understand you do something with Enableability.
Yeah, so we've done a couple of things with them in the past. One of the things we do with them is we allow them to use our big rehearsal room, and we set it up as a karaoke space for them.
Sound.
And we don't run it themselves. We just give them the space, and then the workers at Enableability come along and they run karaoke for them, and they just have a good time, get to sing down a microphone and have a bit of fun. And that happens quite regularly now. And then the other thing is every now and again they like to do workshops for their guys. So we've set up workshops in the past where they've come along and they've spent 20 minutes on a guitar workshop, 20 minutes on a percussion workshop, 20 minutes on a vocal workshop. I think we've done a recording one as well. So just to give them a little taste of a different aspect of music that they probably wouldn't have tried before.
Is that something you're giving back to the community, or is it part of the business?
No, it's more of a give back. It's not something that we permanently do. Enability approached us, so we put it on especially for them. They paid us just enough money that we used to pay the guys who are actually running the workshops. I think Nathan did one of them.
Sure.
So the tutors got paid for their time. Apart from that, it was just a nice thing to give back, and we're looking at ways to do more of those sort of things because we have our rehearsal rooms that are really, really busy at certain points, but then they're quiet at other times. So we're thinking to ourselves, how can we use those rooms when they're quiet to give back?
Yeah.
One of the other things we started doing recently as well is we recently had Admiral Lord Nelson School come in, which was my old school.
Right, cool.
And we said to them, come in during the day, we let the kids use the rehearsal rooms, let them, because they've got little amps at school, but they haven't played in big professional amps. So seeing them turn up the amps, have a little chat with us, look at the recording studio, and some of the kids really enjoyed it. It gave them a bit of inspiration for going on to learning, and we're looking at doing that more. We've got South Downs College coming in with their students in January as well. So it's just nice to get just inspire younger musicians to play.
Which is brilliant, isn't it? You were a South Down student yourself, weren't you?
Yeah. I think the majority of people who are involved in the Portsmouth music community at one point went to South Downs. By the sound of it.
And I was a tutor there as well.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
That must have been before I was there.
I think it was. I was there. I can't remember the year. Probably. Yeah, I can't remember.
I was there between 2005 and 2007.
I think I finished about 2005.
I did have Gary, which I know you very well.
Yeah, Gary. There's only one Gary Shaw. Okay, so one more question. What would you say needs changing to help local musicians, especially youngsters that are starting out in the business, if you don't want to call it a business? What's the first port of call for them, do you reckon?
It's going to be more opportunities to play live. I think that's something that's dwindled over the years. I know there's a bigger picture that the music venues trust are looking at, and they're working with some MPs, and they're lobbying for larger venues to have a levy. So every time you buy a ticket to go to a large gig, a little bit of that money goes back into the music venues trust, and that goes back to small grassroots venues.
What a fab idea.
I don't know if that's been passed yet. I don't think it has. But apparently last year, the music industry made the most amount of money it's ever made in its entire life. But that is on a large scale gigs. That is people going to Wembley Stadium to see Taylor Swift, and people going to the new Co-op Arena in Manchester, and all these big arenas. They're all making massive amounts of money, but less people are going to the smaller venues. So in Portsmouth, we have the Wedgwood Rooms as our only independent venue, where there used to be, when I was playing in young bands 20 years ago, loads of places you could play. So if we start to lose the places to play, then bands aren't going to be out. We're not going to have that next generation of bands if they can't play anywhere.
No, I mean, venues are disappearing, I wouldn't say on a weekly basis, but every year we see a few more to go, don't we?
I think I've also heard like nightclubs are really starting to suddenly vanish off the face of the earth. So if you look back of all the venues and nightclubs we had in the 90s, I think they say something like 50% of them are now gone, maybe even more of that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We really want to try and make Casemates as a place as well where we can start putting on more gigs there and giving bands an opportunity to play live. Even if it's only to a small crowd, they need to start somewhere, because you're never going to have a new band eventually go on to sell out Wembley Stadium if they can't play to somewhere in the first place to 100 people and start their career.
That's it. There's that big saying, it all starts somewhere.
Yeah.
You mentioned your larger rehearsal room. What's the capacity of that? Can it have an audience in it?
We're hoping if we can use that as a venue, there could be a capacity would be 120 people.
Which is ideal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great place for bands to start out. You know, if you're a band and you sell out your first show, you want to be aiming to 120. The Wedgwood Rooms is too big for a small local band to try and sell out.
I think what you've got there could be that little, a little niche there. 120.
Yeah.
Standing or seated, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice number.
When I was younger, we had that at the Eastney Cellars. I think that was 120 back then. Just remember that. And then you have those stepping stones of like, if you're a young band, great, we've sold out 120 cap venue. Next step, let's try and find a 250 venue to sell out. And then you do that, and then you move on to the next step, which is like the Wedgwood Rooms. So that's further down the line. You can't jump straight into a venue like the Wedgwood Rooms. It's too big. It's too prestigious for a young band starting out.
And you've got to get people through the door, and
you've got to work your way up to it.
Venues are expensive, aren't they? One more thing to talk about. So, Victoria's Festival, you have your own stage there. Tell us about that.
That came about quite a few years ago now. I was lucky enough that the guys that ran the festival, I knew them anyway because they used to run a pub in Albert Road.
Yeah.
And when they moved to Southsea Common, I just approached them and said, I really want to be part of the festivals. Can I sponsor a stage? I can't pay to sponsor it, but I can work for you and I can provide some drum kits. So we made a little deal. I sponsored a tiny little stage, which was the first one as you walked in on the left. I did that for 2 years. And then as the years progressed, the sponsorship changed from different stages as new stages came up. And then my involvement in the festival has changed now. So I sponsor the stage, but I also work with them on a kind of semi part-time, full-time, depending on how close to the festival it gets kind of basis. So this time of year, don't do much. And then as the festival progresses, I work quite closely with the production manager on all aspects of all the stages around the festival.
Right. I mean, I have noticed your stage is significantly bigger than what it used to be.
Yeah. It's a really nice stage we've had in that location. We used to sponsor the Seaside stage, and then that moved when the bandstand was closed off for years because of the sea defence work. And then we moved to where it is just outside the Tea Hut, opposite the D-Day Museum. And it's a really great space there for local bands to play. It's not too big, but if you can get 500 people in there, it's a really good atmosphere. So it's a great location for bands to play.
Absolutely amazing. Paul, it's been wonderful talking with you. And unless you've got anything else you want to say, I will say ciao. And,
Thank you very much.
And continue. I will continue to support you guys up at Casemates. I think you're doing a fantastic job, not just for your own business, but for the community. Because
Thank you very much.
It's
really appreciate that.
Definitely needed.
Thank you.
Take care.
If you've enjoyed watching this podcast, then make sure you click that like button and remember to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more of our podcasts. And don't forget, you can listen in where we're busy making radio like it used to be on your DAB radio or online at victoryonline.co.uk. And you can also listen to us on your smart speaker. Just ask it to tune in to Victory Online. Thanks for watching and hope to see you again soon.